In a world permeated with barbecue websites under the control of tyrannical administrators, there was one man, a one-man army. He broke all the rules. He allowed his members to speak out, give their opinions, and make the website what it is today. Get ready for Greg Rempe and the Barbecue Central Show.
Cleveland, Ohio, it's the Barbecue Central Show.
Welcome to the Barbecue Central Show. I'm your host, Greg Rempe. And a very good Tuesday evening to you, wherever you may be. This is LA Talk Radio that you found the Barbecue Central Show on. Got a great show lined up for you. Actually, so great, I'm actually breaking the show open type theme tonight, going right to the guests. So let me just tell you, we have a great show lined up. Contact info if you know what you want to talk about, or if you know who my guest is tonight, you want to ask her a question, you can do so by dialing 216-220-0966. You can also email your questions at bbqcentralradio@gmail.com. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by Carrie Oliver. She is the CEO and founder of a company called Oliver Ranch, and we'll get into that here in just a few seconds. This portion of the Barbecue Central Show brought to you by the good folks at the Barbecue Guru. They make automatic temperature controls that fit any pit or smoker. Not only do they make the DigiQ2, but a host of other products to make your barbecue and grilling life easier, to include the charcoal catering system, which has 3 bays, the Kildare smokers, and the Holy Smokes silicone mats. You can visit them at thebbqguru.com or call them at 800-288-GURU. And that's what we have tonight. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and bring my guest on. Her name, again, is Carrie Oliver, and she's joining me from Oliver Ranch. Carrie, thanks for joining me tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great, Greg. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Certainly my pleasure to have you on. And I actually kind of found out about you. My mom had actually sent me a clipping. They live down in Florida, and one of a kind of common friend that we have amongst each other is Jaden from Steamy Kitchen. And she wrote up a nice article in the local paper there about the beef tastings that you do, which is kind of a portion of Oliver Ranch that we'll get into here over the next 2 segments. But I found it to be a really fascinating and truly unique business that you've kind of gotten into. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Oliver Ranch, maybe what your background is a little bit, and we'll kind of delve into the further insider type things here as the show unfolds.
Sure. So Oliver Ranch, really, I like to think of myself as somebody who specializes in artisan steak tastings. And just, you sort of pointed it out, it's like a wine tasting but with steaks. And it's got 2 parts. Oliver Ranch itself is an online marketplace where we sell, where you can buy beef from different artisan producers, or you can buy a sampler, which allows you to have a home steak tasting party. The other part is an educational arm called the Artisan Beef Institute. And I go around the country and do public tastings and or smaller group tastings, which is what Jaden and I and a few other people down in the Tampa area did a few months back.
So what was the inspiration to, getting in the business? Were you just unhappy with, your meat selections at the grocery store and done kind of going in like sheep, or, what was the precipice for the business?
I got to tell you, I love to eat meat, especially beef and especially steaks. I really started to feel anxious about what I was eating. I wanted to know that the cattle were treated with respect. These are my hot buttons. I wanted to know that they had eaten a natural diet and weren't given drugs to make them healthy or grow big. And I wanted to know that the people who were raising the beef and helping process it were treated fairly. And I pretty much went on a mission to find a perfect steak. It was just for my own consumption, and was willing to pay more, but I didn't want to trade off taste and quality. I couldn't find anyone who could tell me what was going to be on my plate. And when I did buy meat from the same butcher, it would vary from week to week. I actually went out and I got the inspiration for the steak tastings and for the company and everything else really came from buying 7 New York strip loins in one shopping spree, and from 4 different stores, and trying to learn everything I could about them, which wasn't a lot. And then coming home and like, what do you do with 7 New York strip loins? So it was just me and my husband. You would have liked to have been my neighbor that day.
Well, I can imagine.
So we invited over the neighbors and we did a steak tasting, and it was really, really interesting because all we were able to find out was that they were mostly Angus beef with, and the grade. And we had a mix of U.S. grade and Canadian grade beef. And when we tasted them, we were like, wait a minute, these are all really, really different from each other. And the second was, we did a secret ballot. We didn't agree which one was best. And the third was that when we compared notes with what the steaks actually were, there wasn't a correlation with what we'd been trained to look for. It didn't seem to be all about the marbling. And that made me curious. So the USDA prime steak in that particular batch did not come to the top. So I started investigating it a little bit more.
So when did you actually, officially start, this whole Oliver Ranch endeavor?
Almost 3 years ago. And I spent the last 3 years becoming a beef geek and learning everything I can about raising steaks and what does go into making really great tasting beef. And the big observation, this is the big thing, it's just like wine. We've been taught to look at marbling, and marbling is important. Beef is very much like wine. It varies by the ranch, where the ranch is, the breed that they specialize in, no different than the wine variety grape. What diet they use, whether it's all grass or a mix of grains, and also whether or not you have proper aging, and if it's dry aged or wet aged. So you can get a lot of variation just by going to different ranches.
So basically you're saying right. So basically you're saying the dirt that the grass grows in and where they are and how they're fed and treated as they're brought up before slaughter is going to affect, the beef in Nebraska is going to taste different from the beef in Florida or Georgia versus California, and the list goes on, maybe even out to Japan.
Well, yeah, and I would argue that the beef in one part of Nebraska might taste different than beef in another part of Nebraska, especially if it's a different breed and if it's been aged differently. And the other thing that's really important and was exciting to me, given that my hot buttons, which I just discussed, is I found out that good practices in terms of animal welfare and in terms of land management actually lead to better tasting beef. That stress has a negative impact on beef. It makes it drier. It can make it tougher. So when you actually go out and you seek good practices, you get better flavor, and you've done the right thing.
Now, when you were initially starting to do your beef investigations, I mean, who you were contacting? Did you find there to be any type of resistance? Like, who's this lady asking me how I raise my beef, what I feed my beef, if I'm giving them steroids or injecting them with antibiotics or whatever? I mean, did you get some type of blowback from like big beef in general?
No, I mean, actually, I think at the end of the day, I'm hoping to help all beef producers by, taking a category which is, I think, it's oversimplified and saying, hey, there's a lot more variety, and think about other foods that we eat. It's a lot of different apples. You might like Macintosh better than Granny Smith. It increases the overall value of beef, I think, if people start to think about it and all the different, and frankly celebrate the variety that exists. As for individual ranchers, they're delighted because, the issue is that, I'll give you this great example. If all the red wine grapes in Northern California, let's say Napa and Sonoma, that were ready this week, were all trucked off to the same processor and blended into a wine, and out the other end came out red wine, it might actually taste pretty good. But you have a really hard time repeating it. And I think you would have missed an opportunity to select out different wine varietals and different qualities within there and create specialty wines. And that's what I think beef right now, you've got all this lovely variety that walks up to the abattoir door and comes out the other end as choice or maybe natural beef. I'd like to see it differentiated based on what was walking into the door in the first place.
So how did you go about actually finding these artisan ranchers to partner with? And then, kind of to piggyback on top of that, what impresses you the most about the ranches that you're actually, partnering with right now?
I am not a rancher. I'm a city girl. So I hired a rancher who's got 30 years of experience in raising cattle, and specifically raising cattle without the use of chemical fertilizers, herbicides, steroids, etc., and asked him to help me make a selection. And we specifically looked for producers who had certain standards that I think the customers, a lot of customers are really looking for, and said, hey, let's cherry pick people who specialize in a specific breed, have really, really good husbandry practices, and that we know that if we put into an artisan steak tasting pack, people will notice the difference and come back and order more of their favorite. So we looked for, a couple of key criteria. A specific ranch or producer group. We wanted to be able to trace the meat all the way back to the original farm. We're looking for people who specialize in a single breed or crossbreed. So whether they specialize in Angus or Angus crossed with Wagyu. We were looking for no added growth hormones, no preventative antibiotics, all vegetable diet, good treatment. And we also wanted to be able to trace it all the way up through the processor and the butcher and make sure that it was properly aged.
Now, are there ranchers out there right now that, since we're kind of comparing, this whole beef venture that you have with, the growing of grapes, making into wine and varietals and such, are there ranchers out there that you can trace back, in a definite length of time, just as you could with, let's say, Bordeaux or Chile or Napa?
I think it's a little bit more perishable than that. No, and there are some really, really great ranchers out there. In fact, I haven't met one that isn't. And what I'm really hoping to do is give them some visibility. So can we help the customer who's looking for their kind of product find them? Can we get them to get paid a little bit better to reward best practices, give them some recognition? And you know what? One of the things the ranchers really appreciate is that I'm able to give them feedback. Because when people know what's on their plate, no different than knowing what's in the bottle of wine, you're able to say, hey, I like that and I don't like that for the following reasons. And that giving that back to the ranch allows them to improve their practices also.
So what kind of cuts are you offering in the or on the site to sell? What are the cherry picked cuts?
Yeah, I started a little bit simple and have just the main steak cuts. So you've got the filet mignon, the New York strip loin, ribeyes, and the sirloin. And I also have some dry aged Charolais burgers that are just to die for good. We made some bratwurst out of the trims from the steaks themselves, and I think that's about it right now. Oh, we have some pet treats that, frankly, my customers report they eat too.
Pet treats.
They fight over it with the dog. Yeah.
Now, do you have, let's say, when you're hosting a party yourself, do you have a favorite cut of meat that you like to serve to your guests, or is it really just kind of a true tasting, where you have strip steak and you have the Kobe beef and you have the filet and you have the ribeye?
Well, I encourage people, and I do this myself. I'll choose my favorite cut. Now, I like to experiment, so I've tried a steak tasting with all four cuts. I've also done hamburger tastings, which is equally fun. So if a customer's favorite steak is the ribeye, then I would suggest that they get the ribeye. And then what we'll do is we'll send, and whether this is a private tasting or a public tasting, we'll send ribeye steaks from each one of four different ranches, along with, tips on how to have a tasting. The other thing we add with that is a tasting guide, because one of the first things I noticed when I started tasting was that we all sat around saying, well, how the heck do we describe this? To use other than meaty, beefy, gamey, juicy, tender. And that didn't quite help, in terms of how to describe what you liked or didn't like about one particular ranch's ribeye. The other thing was that your beefy might have been my gamey. So I said, no, that's a gamey taste. No, that's a beefy taste. So we're trying to use the guide to help people describe what they do or don't like about different styles of beef, so different ranches. And you want to hold, constant the steak cut itself. You wouldn't want to compare a tenderloin from one ranch compared to a New York strip loin from another.
Right. Okay.
By keeping them the same. Yeah.
I was going to say, why don't we'll go ahead and hold back on the tastings portion of that. We'll do a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about what you look to do within the tastings and how you compare the same cuts from different regions. And I have a whole bunch of other questions that emailers have emailed me during the course of the day because they were eagerly looking forward to this. So hang with me through the break. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show on LA Talk Radio. Stand by. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show on LA Talk Radio.
The future of barbecue is already here at thebarbecueguru.com. From the amazing guru that monitors and controls the temperatures of any charcoal, wood, or electric pit to the Caldera Tallboy knockdown smoker. Yes, it breaks down and stores flat, yet it's still a robust, sturdy, portable cooker and smokehouse. It also serves as an efficient temperature-controlled convection oven using wood or charcoal. The Tallboy is designed to fit all catering pans and can be used as a warming oven. You can cook in any style you choose. Make ribs, chicken, jerky, vegetables, smoked cheese, whatever you want. Take it to KCBS competitions and unload it from the trunk of your car. TheBarbecueGuru.com is where you'll find the Caldera 3-Bay Caterer. It's stainless steel and uses charcoal or sterno for chafing purposes. And it doubles as a 3-bay sink or wash station with hot water and knocks down in seconds with no tools required for transportation and storage. The future of barbecue is here at TheBarbecueGuru.com. That's www.thebbqguru.com or call 1-800-288-GURU. Wolf Rub is the Howlin' good answer to bland food. Wolf Rub's special blend of spices, sugars, and salt is an award-winning barbecue rub that can be used right out of the shaker bottle on your table, too. Great on ribs, chicken, steaks, even popcorn and peanuts. Try the original Wolf Rub, a perfect blend of sweet and heat, or the new Wolf Rub Bold for an extra blast of flavor. Now available in small or large bottles. Visit wolfrub.com to order. www.wolferub.com.
Petey River Swamp Sauce answers the age-old question of which barbecue sauce is best, vinegar, mustard, or tomato-based. So which one is best? They all are, especially when combined to one unique sauce. Petey River Swamp Sauce's unique taste complements all types of dishes. Petey River Swamp Sauce was born of humble beginnings more than 3 years ago as a sauce served at family gatherings and parties, and is now professionally bottled in North Carolina. Petey River Swamp Sauce has been getting rave reviews across the internet. It also won the 2007 Barbecue Central's Barbecue Sauce Contest. You can purchase Petey River Swamp Sauce by going to their website, swampsauce.com, or you can call 910-206-2139 and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Petey River Swamp Sauce. Flavor you can see.
Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show on LA Talk Radio.
Barbecue Central Show here on LA Talk Radio. It's your Tuesday evening. This portion of the Barbecue Central Show brought to you by Petey River Swamp Sauce, winner of the 2007 Barbecue Central Forum Barbecue Sauce Contest. Visit swampsauce.com or call Tim at 910-206-2139 to buy Petey River Swamp Sauce. Remember, that's flavor that you can see, Petey River Swamp Sauce. All right, Kerry, thanks for hanging with me through the break there. And we were just kind of hitting on the tasting portion there at the end before we went off to break. So, what can if somebody called you and said, "Hey, we want to do a public tasting or we want to do a private tasting," obviously you decide up front what cut you want, and you're bringing them from then maybe a bunch of different regions so you can get this whole taste difference going. How does one go about it? And maybe we can talk a little bit more about that scoring system you tried to mention there right at the end before we went to break.
Yeah, so when you say go about it, you mean how you would do it once you receive the package, or how do we get it to you?
Yeah, well, either or, whether it's by mail or whether you're actually, coming out in person to do one either publicly or privately.
Got it. So the home solution is you go to my website, which is oliverranch.com. You choose which your favorite cut is and whether you want 4 steaks or 8 steaks, and we're going to ship that to you by UPS. And it comes 2 days later. And along with a tasting guide, a how-to tips, some toothpicks to help you keep the steaks straight, which is actually harder than you might think, especially if you're drinking wine or beer. And I always offer a personal phone call if somebody wants to have me walk them through how to have an ideal tasting. Some people do it on their own. Some people actually invite over friends and family, make a big party out of it. The public tastings, I like to go to a city, and I'll bring a couple of steaks that I might have in my current marketplace, and I'll find a couple that are from a local providers. And I'll typically bring, especially if it's a large tasting, I'll bring a rancher, a butcher, and a chef along with me. And we'll have an education panel. Then we'll do a blind taste test, and then we'll allow people to ask questions of the people on the panel. And that's lots of fun. And basically each person is there to say, hey, these are the top 2 to 3 things that I do that influence taste and texture. Because, again, kind of going back to that wine analogy, it takes a lot of different people. You've got the vineyard manager, you've got the person who's actually aging the grapes, and then you have a sommelier who's helping you choose which ones to eat. And the rancher, the butcher, and the chef sort of fill the same roles. We usually do a tasting for 4 steaks. If I do smaller tastings, I've done as many as 8. You get pretty darn full tasting steaks from 8 different ranches.
Right.
And it's particularly fun to actually mix up grass-finished beef and grain-finished beef.
What's the percentage of private tastings versus public ones that you've done so far?
Far more private tastings. I only started the public tastings in August, so last summer, and I've done just a handful of those things. And we really hope to go out this spring and summer and hit a lot more cities.
Now, you said you've been, operating for the last 3 years. Have you seen? I'm guessing this is probably, still in its niche phase. Perhaps this will, this is just going to cater to a niche market. Hopefully the show will change that. But that aside, I mean, have you seen, from when you've started to present day, I mean, have you seen, a decent upscale in sales?
Definitely. And not just me, but other offering, very carefully selected beef from very good ranchers and processors and butchers. So you can walk in, even out in Northern California where I grew up, 3 years ago I could walk into a butcher shop and they weren't able to tell me what I was going to eat. But today a lot of them have gotten a lot better and can tell you where the meat's from and a lot more about it. And the same thing is true with restaurants. So I think it is still a niche, but I look at the long road here is that, 30 years ago wine was pretty much jug wine and fine wine. And look where it is today. And it took some time to, help develop all the different varietals in the United States. And we've got some wines that are very, very fine. We've got mid-level, and we've got the less expensive wines. All that different variety appeals to different people. So it'll take time, I think, for the meat industry. And it's not just beef. It's also pork and lamb, et cetera, to evolve, But it's definitely catching on. It's also a lot of fun. So I think that's one of the key reasons is like it's a lot of fun. And again, it goes back and you're like, wow, I'm doing the right thing. I'm having better food and I'm enjoying myself while I'm doing it.
So let's say you were going to host me. I was going to host a beef tasting for my wife and myself and then her boss and her husband. So I'm going to get a 4-pack. What does something like that run if I'm, ordering it in?
Well, it does depend on the cut. So the sirloin is the least expensive and the tenderloin the most. So, anywhere from a small sirloin tack would be around $45. And if you got a big 8-pack of enormous, which would not be for your 4 guests.
You don't know us.
Enormous ribeye steaks. It's a little over $200. What the current mix that I have includes Wagyu Angus, which some people call Kobe style. Mm-hmm. So it's a crossbreed between the Japanese and the Scottish Angus, and that is a little bit pricier. So that raises the overall price. But trust me, it's worth it. It's really fun to taste that particular steak and see what all the buzz is about.
But I'm imagining if I'm even getting, in the upper scale of the package that you offer, it's still going to be less expensive overall for me to get that package, cook it here, have the tasting, have the fun, the camaraderie, than going out to some type of chop house, whether it be independent or one of the higher end chains, where you could be easily, scooting into the $500 range or more when you're at, 4+ people.
Oh, significantly less expensive than going to a restaurant. And you're getting, even a restaurant would have a hard time. There's some really great chefs out there, but it's hard to offer somebody a taste of beef from 4 different ranchers at once. And it's a great deal. We've had a lot of people come back and order more tasting packs, and the others will say, "Hey, I liked that one from the Charolais farm the best. I'm going to buy theirs, strictly theirs next time." So it's pretty rewarding for folks. Because we also blast freeze and individually wrap each steak, you can keep them in your freezer for treats. You don't have to worry about perishability.
Right.
So you can load up, fill up the freezer, and when you feel like a great steak, you can go in and grab one.
Is there a significant difference between what you're offering and Omaha steak?
Yes. Omaha steak is not selling source-specific beef. They're also don't have the same standards in terms of focusing on a single breed or crossbreed, the no growth hormones, no antibiotics. It's not that different than what you would get in the supermarket, as far as I know.
Now,
it's a lot better trimmed, and it's nicely packaged, and I think they do a great job, but I think what we have is very, very different.
I had an email question from somebody earlier today that wanted me to ask you to explain the difference between, because on your website you can see, between the different cuts and selections, you have it aged, wet aged for so long or dry aged for so long. But tell us the difference between wet aging and dry aging, and does one impart different flavor on the meat, one versus the other?
Yeah, the answer is yes, it does. Dry aging would be what I would describe as the old-fashioned way of aging meat and it's exposed to the air. So whether or not you've got what they call a side of beef that's hanging in a cooler, or if you just have certain specialty cuts within it, such as the rib section, it's aged in a humidity-controlled environment and at cold temperatures, and it loses moisture. And as it loses moisture, other things are going on. It's starting to become more tender because of enzymes that are working in the beef, and it also, because it's losing moisture, you end up concentrating flavors. Wet aging would take that same rib section, and it would be aged for a similar period of time in similar conditions, but it'll be wrapped in cryovac plastic. So it's not exposed to the air, it's not losing moisture, so you don't tend to get as much of a concentrated flavor, but you get the benefits of tenderization and just flavor enhancement in general.
So obviously my follow-up question to that is, which one do you prefer, the wet or the dry aging?
You know what? It kind of depends. But I seem to gravitate towards dry aged. And I like meat that has a lot of flavor and kind of what I would call a fun personality. It has different layers of flavor. This kind of goes back to that tasting guide. Some meats are very reserved, they're straightforward, they're meaty, but you don't really think about other word associations. And the dry-aged beef tend to have just a little bit more interesting flavors in the beef, and to have more of a full flavor overall. But I have had incredibly good wet-aged beef, and including some of the ones that are in my current marketplace. I would probably choose a completely different sauce or rub if I were to use a sauce or a rub with the steaks, or because the flavors are so different from each other. I've had a dry-aged steak that was terrific on its own and a sauce that was terrific on its own, and the two together were terrible.
My last question before we give out contact information and any promos for the listeners. Do you think that the Wagyu or the Kobe beef is something that at this point has become overhyped? You hear talked about a lot. People don't know where to get it, or now it's becoming accessible, but you see the price tag and people get a little freaked out about it. Is it something that has now become more hype than really what it's worth?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. There's a lot of the customers we have come back and reorder that beef after their tasting. So, in fact, a lot of customers come back and order a different mix of beef because, Bob liked the Wagyu and Mary liked the Charolais. But no, I don't think it's hyped. I just think that, there's a huge range of quality and marbling and the way that steaks are aged, the Wagyu steaks are aged. So you're not always going to have the same experience, and you probably would like Wagyu from one ranch or ranch group better than you would from another.
I was going to say, is it?
But I don't think it's hyped.
If I got a cut of Wagyu from one rancher in 2008, in 2009, is there going to be a potential taste difference between technically the vintage years?
Yes, no different than with wine, and actually meat, especially if it's only been fed on grass, which is not true with Wagyu. They're mixed diet of grass and grains. You'll find seasonal variation, so not just year to year, but grasses aren't the same grass throughout the season. So you will find some subtle differences. And you can't always control the weather if there's a drought, et cetera. But I would argue that since you've got the same genetic, group, you've got the same ranch managers, the same protocols, it's going to be a heck of a lot more consistent year to year than if you were comparing two different ranches.
It's like Wagyu is the Bordeaux of meat.
I think that you ought to try a tasting and find out which one you like best. Because your Bordeaux might be a different one.
That's right.
You might find out you have a different favorite, and the Wagyu's not. You might find that the Wagyu's worth the extra penny.
All right, so we have a promo for the listeners that's going to go on until the end of this month. So go ahead and tell us where we need to go and what we would need to do.
Yeah, so right now you want to go to my website, which is www.oliverranch.com. So it's OLIVERRANCH. For the promotion we have now is for any order of $100 or more is free shipping. If you use a code from tonight's show, which is 1LATALK, you don't have to worry about capitalizations. So 1LATALK. We'll also send along 4 free sirloin steaks that are dry-aged Charolais from Colorado.
Awesome. And the website, again, is oliverranch.com, and you want to use the code 1LATalk. I'll go ahead and put the link up on the show notes, and, of course, I'll specify that runs until the end of the month. And is there a phone number that people can get a hold of you at, Carrie?
Yeah, I'll just give you my mobile number. It's 416-807-5981. So I'll repeat it. It's 416-807-5981.
All right, and we'll chase people over to Oliver Ranch. Carrie, I certainly appreciate you coming on tonight. This is truly fascinating, the business and how beef can vary in taste from region to region, what they're fed. And I'm glad you got into it so I could find you and we could talk about this. And we'll definitely have you on again in just a short while. So, again, appreciate the insight and the information, and continued success.
Well, thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure, and I'm glad you found me.
All right, thanks, Carrie.
All right, take care.
Bye. Carrie Oliver from Oliver Ranch. Again, that website is oliverranch.com. And if you order a tasting pack of $100 or more, free shipping, nice. And then if you put in the promo code 1LATalk, you get 4 free sirloin steaks. And they sounded nice. So there's something free for you. 2 free things, shipping and steak. Does it get any better than that? And that runs until the end of this month. When we come back, we will have the third segment, Free for All. And Barbecue Juice is sponsoring this, so if you're interested in getting your hands on a bottle of sauce and a bottle of rub, call now, 216-220-0966. Stand by, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Wolf Rub is the Helen good answer to bland food. Wolf Rub's special blend of spices, sugars, and salt is an award-winning barbecue rub that can be used right out of the shaker bottle on your table, too. Great on ribs, chicken, steaks, even popcorn and peanuts. Try the original Wolf Rub, a perfect blend of sweet and heat, or the new Wolf Rub Bold for an extra blast of flavor. Now available in small or large bottles. Visit wolfrub.com to order. www.wolfrub.com. ULFERUB.com.
Petey River Swamp Sauce answers the age-old question of which barbecue sauce is best, vinegar, mustard, or tomato-based. So which one is best? They all are, especially when combined to one unique sauce. Petey River Swamp Sauce's unique taste complements all types of dishes. Petey River Swamp Sauce was born of humble beginnings more than 3 years ago as a sauce served at family gatherings and parties, and is now professionally bottled in North Carolina. Petey River Swamp Sauce has been getting rave reviews across the internet. It also won the 2007 Barbecue Central's Barbecue Sauce Contest. You can purchase Petey River Swamp Sauce by going to their website, swampsauce.com, or you can call 910-206-2139 and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Petey River Swamp Sauce. Flavor you can see.
Barbecue has never been easier with the Barbecue Guru. The Barbecue Guru is a temperature control and monitor for all pits, charcoal, wood, electric, your pit. It easily attaches to any smoker or pit and gives you simple, trouble-free control of your temperatures so you can make championship quality barbecue every time and all the time. And it's location-free. Take it anywhere. This amazing breakthrough in barbecue technology is a microprocessor-controlled draft system that uses temperature monitors and a small fan to keep your temperatures constant. The stainless steel Guru Pit Minder gives you a choice of controls from 90 to 370 degrees. So cold smoking, pepper drying, making cheese or jerky, or fabulous briskets and ribs is nothing short of effortless. The Procom 4 lets you monitor your pit from up to 600 feet away. And there's more. Check out the full line of products and accessories for the future of barbecue with new items on the way. Visit thebarbecueguru.com. That's www.thebbqguru.com. Or call 1-800-288-GURU.
Let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show on LA Talk Radio.
All right, Barbecue Central Show here on LA Talk Radio. This portion of the Barbecue Central Show brought to you by Fred's Music and BBQ. Everything you need for your grill or smoker is right there at Fred's Music and BBQ.com. Don't forget, they are the home of the egg spurts. All of Fred's employees trained in the Big Green Egg, everything about it. Visit Fred's Music and BBQ.com or call them at 610-796-2527. All right, so let's go ahead and find a winner. Barbecue Central Radio, name and where you're calling from.
Hello, Randy Morris.
Randy, how are you tonight?
Doing great. How are you, Greg?
Not too bad. Have you been listening all night?
Yes, sir, I have, every Tuesday.
What did you think about the beef show tonight?
Very interesting, very interesting.
I had no idea that taste could vary from region to region and how they're fed and all that stuff. So
yes, it is. It is very. I love pork, but I'm a big beef fan too. So it was very interesting for a change of pace.
Randy, where are you calling from tonight?
Lynette, Alabama.
Alabama. All right. Were you interested in the BBQ juice that Cal Phelps is made up for offer?
Absolutely. I want some of Cale's barbecue juice.
All right.
I cooked the Murfreesboro cook-off with Cale this year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, sure did. And we were on the same team up there, and so Cale's got some good product. I want to try it.
All right, so you're going to get a bottle of his sauce, the barbecue juice, and a bottle of the rub as well. So all you need to do is go ahead and shoot me an email at bbqcentralradio@gmail.com and give me your shipping address. I'll send it to Cale, and he'll hook you up.
I'll do it, Greg. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Randy. Randy from Alabama. How do I want to rate this call quality? Yeah, come on. I got better things to do than that. All right, so we got our winner. Thanks to Cal Phelps. He's the guy that runs the National Barbecue News Festival. Not the National Bar. He runs the National Barbecue Festival, which is the competition or the festival that houses the best of the best competition. If you remember from a previous show a few months ago, we had him on, and that took place right after the Jack Daniels competition did. And they run not only Best of the Best, they have the National Barbecue Festival, also the Barbecue News, which is a publication dedicated specifically to the sport of and art of barbecue. And you can find him at barbecuenews.com and National BBQ Festival BBQSausGrill.com, and now BBQJuice.com. Barbecue sauce and barbecue rub. Everybody's getting into it. Everybody's throwing their hat into the ring for this. So next week, we're going to be talking with two guys, Russ Cole and Jack Waybor. And these guys run a very cool class. We've had some people on that have these cooking classes for competitors. These two guys are masters of the pit and do the Carolina Pit Masters class. So we will have them on next week to talk about that class, what's involved, when the next classes will be offered, and how you can sign up to get in some of that. I've had Jack on, was actually 1/4 of the Roundtable podcast that went over ribs. And Jack has a number of cookers. I have not talked to Russ yet, but I know he also is in the barbecue sauce business himself with Smoking Coals. So I'm sure he'll make some sauce available for giveaway next week. So that's what's on tap with that. Week after that, we're looking at the Lone Star Barbecue Society. This is a society down in Texas. And Texas is like as big as the United States all by itself. So, within it, you have like Kansas City Barbecue Society events. You have the ICBS, I believe it's called. You have the Lone Star Barbecue Society. It's its own sanctioned body with its own rules and its own turn-ins. So I thought it would be interesting to get a hold of those guys and see what they're doing down there in Texas because they hate pork and they just like beef, which is fine. And they're still threatening to secede from the United States. So that's what's happening here over the next few weeks. Also looking at getting Jaden Hare from SteamyKitchen.com to talk about a unique method of taking, I guess, what would be deemed a lesser cut, let's say a sirloin. Some would deem that a lesser cut of, let's say, a ribeye or obviously a tenderloin cut. But you do the salt technique, and it's supposed to, soften it up and make it a superior cut than how you originally bought it. I thought that method was very interesting. And I'm going to have her on to talk about that here in a few weeks as well. And, of course, I am hoping to get my independent lab test studies completed here over the next week or two with the new Kingsford Competition Briquette. Kingsford has launched a new product which will be available in April of this year. I did have Chris Lilly on a few weeks ago to talk about the new launch of the Kingsford product. Many people seeing this as Kingsford's way of getting the people that have left them because they refuse to make a product that was all natural, that was similar to another company that was doing an amazing business for only a short period of time, unfortunately. But they have come out with an all natural, what I call the hybrid fuel, the hardwood lump briquette. The high heat of the lump, the consistent longevity burn time of a briquette, with what is supposed to not have the standard funky Kingsford smell on light up, considerably less ash, which is my main concern and what I want to see. So it's just too freaking cold out here to do any type of real independent test because not a lot of people live in this kind of a weather unless you're up in Canada, which is, of course, worse weather-wise than us. So I hope to do that. I have pictures on my website, thebbqcentral.com, of what the new competition briquette looks like compared to a regular briquette in the blue bag of Kingsford. Top views, bottom views. There's none of that speckled binder stuff that you find in the original one that you don't see that in the competition briquette. Also, the competition briquette is fatter. It's thicker. You can see that on my website. Also did a little video on that as well. So I hope to report back on that soon, and may I say soon again. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks to Carrie Oliver for coming on tonight and talking about the artisan beef. She does the beef tastings. You can order the pack. Don't forget, go to the website, Oliver Ranch, Oliver Ranch, RANCH.com. Go ahead and pick out a pack. If it's $100 or more, you qualify for free shipping, which is great. And number 2, if you enter in the promo code 1, LA Talk, you get 4 free sirloin steaks. So you should be jumping on that ASAP. That runs until the end of the month. I'll remind you of that next week for the show when we have Carolina Pitmasters, Jack Waybor, and Russ Cole. Thanks to Sam Hassett for running the sound in Southern California. Don't forget to stay tuned after me here at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Broad Topics with your hosts Laura, Joan, Kelly, and Jillian talking about whatever it is girls talk about in Los Angeles. And don't forget to tune in to the Barbecue Central Show next week. And until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is your program host, Greg Rempe, U.S. American. Good night now.
Wolf Rub is the howling good answer to bland food. Wolf Rub's special blend of spices, sugars, and salt is an award-winning barbecue rub that can be used right out of the shaker bottle on your table, too. Great on ribs, chicken, steaks, even popcorn and peanuts. Try the original Wolf Rub, a perfect blend of sweet and heat, or the new Wolf Rub Bold for an extra blast of flavor. Now available in small or large bottles. Visit wolfrub.com to order. www.wolferub.com.
Petey River Swamp Sauce answers the age-old question of which barbecue sauce is best, vinegar, mustard, or tomato-based. So which one is best? They all are, especially when combined to one unique sauce. Petey River Swamp Sauce's unique taste complements all types of dishes. Petey River Swamp Sauce was born of humble beginnings more than 3 years ago as the sauce served at family gatherings and parties, and is now professionally bottled in North Carolina. Petey River Swamp Sauce has been getting rave reviews across the internet. It also won the 2007 Barbecue Central's Barbecue Sauce Contest. You can purchase Petey River Swamp Sauce by going to their website, swampsauce.com, or you can call 910-206-2139 and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Petey River Swamp Sauce. Flavor you can see.
Barbecue has never been easier with the Barbecue Guru. The Barbecue Guru is a temperature control and monitor for all pits, charcoal, wood, electric, your pit. It easily attaches to any smoker or pit and gives you simple, trouble-free control of your temperatures, so you can make championship quality barbecue every time and all the time. And it's location-free. Take it anywhere. This amazing breakthrough in barbecue technology is a microprocessor-controlled draft system that uses temperature monitors and a small fan to keep your temperatures constant. The stainless steel Guru Pit Minder gives you a choice of controls from 90 to 370 degrees. So cold smoking, pepper drying, making cheese or jerky, or fabulous briskets and ribs is nothing short of effortless. The Procom 4 lets you monitor your pit from up to 600 feet away, and there's more. Check out the full line of products and accessories for the future of barbecue with new items on the way. Visit thebarbecueguru.com. That's www.thebbqguru.com, or call 1-800-288-GURU.